Grand Rising. So I know there's many of you that contact me that have probably been listening to my podcasts, and you know that I am familiar with the realm of psychedelics and entheogens and the mushrooms of this world. And so you think that my work somewhat revolves around that, right? And in a sense, it's part of it. In a sense, a lot of that I'm doing was, let's say, not initiated through, but influenced by these realms, because they were definitely also part of my healing journey. And so who knows if I would be here without these experiences, right? And without that work, because I don't know. I simply don't know. And I used to do all kinds of stuff recreationally all the time. Not as much as, alcohol and, my self-medication, but I tried everything basically that's out there in my teens and, after my teens and my late teens and 20s. And so the thing shifts, when you do it in ceremony, when you do it with intent, when you do it for purpose, when you do it structured and with preparation, with proper preparation, right? And that's basically the point of this video, because preparation means you have to do the work prior to just going into ceremony. In very rare cases, I recommend to go straight in, but in most cases I don't, right? In most cases I think you should, and you have to do the work first, and you have to put some time and effort into healing yourself first, right? I don't think it's the right thing to do to jump into these realms right away, with a lot of these entities attached still, and without the energy work being done, without you actually knowing where stuff comes from, without you actually being able to breathe properly, through the belly and all that stuff that we learn in phase 1 of my coaching or of my guidance programs. And so I don't think you can have a good experience if you don't know how to breathe, by the way. It's very crucial, right? So breathing in 3 parts: belly, rib cage, rest, okay? Always. And through the nose in. Try that. It's not easy, especially not when you're doing stuff, right? Like if you really just sitting down and meditating, you can do it, right? But like once you try to incorporate it as a part of your life, it gets a little bit tricky, but it's doable. So to get back to the point of this video, yes, I understand these realms tiny bit, I would say, and there's so much more to explore, and I've tried pretty much almost all of it that is out there, and I know what works with what addiction, and I know what works for the humans that I work with. And it is possible that I advise you to go down these ways and down these roads later on, right? But it's not essentially part of my program, because I think most people out there, they just don't want to do the work, and they just don't want to put in the time and the effort to heal themselves. And you have to, you cannot shortcut your way out of this. Like to do the really deep work, you have to be able to sit with yourself and look yourself in the mirror, right? And see what comes up. And like to get to this point of really sitting with yourself takes a lot of work, especially when you have ADHD and you've never even thought about meditating for 5 minutes, you know. I have days as well where it's difficult, really. And, you know, maybe I ate shitty food the day before, I haven't exercised enough, my sleep is bad, just like it is these past, 2-3 weeks, my sleep sucks. Because, I live in a place where, the winter is very calm, and then the summer just blows up, right? And like the nights are just, loud and too loud for me, right? And since I get up early and, there's music until the late night, right? My sleep just shrinks immensely and my deep sleep is non-existent. And so I'm just kind of, doing my best not to have to take a break, because that's ultimately what I would need right now. It's someplace in the mountains or something, right? But since I'm not alone, since I have family, there's priorities, right? So I cannot just, rip everything apart just because I'm tired, right? And so we keep the basics running, exercise, food, nutrition is always on point 99% of the time. And, sleep as a basic pillar, that's the one that's suffering right now, which means my baseline for everything else suffers, right? My ADHD symptoms, if you want to call those that way, they're much worse. My focus isn't as good as it can be. The way I react to my supplementation is different. The way I react to caffeine, to nicotine is different. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, if you optimize for sleep, everything changes. Every single thing that you do in life is affected by the quality of your sleep. Literally everything. And just because you're knocked out, because you took a downer, or because you smoked some weed, or because you're drunk, it's not sleep, okay? It's not restorative sleep. You're basically just knocked out, and it doesn't count as sleep. You're not detoxing, you're not, your lymphatic system isn't working properly, especially, from the brain down. Like, there's nothing being moved out of that area towards the, towards your body, like downwards, right? Where it can be basically filtered out and extracted. But, this is the environments that we live in. People don't think about this, right? People think when they're sleeping and the doctor prescribes them a sleeping pill, you're actually sleeping, but you're not. Your body is not recovering. Your body is not rebuilding itself at all. So I just want you to know that, because it's important. So sleep, absolutely crucial. And here in the summers, it's every single time. It's like such a big teacher for me. How much it affects my life, like on a daily basis, especially like my temper. When you have 2 kids, you have to be calm and collected, and you have to be present, and you can fuck a lot up, when you say the wrong things at the wrong time. And sleep is just so crucial with all of this, because like it just affects my mood, let's say it that way, right? So I cannot take as much shit, and screaming gets difficult at times, right? Which is just normal. So it's a good teacher. It's an important teacher. So you're grateful for when you're actually sleeping well again. And I mean, this is not a situation that I like to repeat. I probably won't repeat it next year, because it's just not worth it. I will do my best to find ways to work around this, and because there are always ways to work around anything, if you really want. And probably we as a family didn't want to work around it that much, because I think I forget about it, how fucked up it is. I try to push it away. forget about how much it affects me, because then I have like 8-9 months of really good sleep, and then my brain just says, okay, whatever happened there, fuck it, it's not important. But it's so important, it's so crucial. It affects everything in your life. So optimize for sleep. Sleep starts the night before. I talk about this often. Don't eat any heavy foods, don't drink, don't do any drugs, like nothing that like that is that's like the epitome of how that should look like. And nothing heavy, right, for dinner. And try to eat dinner at least 3 hours the last food 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed, so it could be digested a little bit already. All these things, and there's plenty more, right? But all these things, they will affect your sleep. And so just know that any substance you're adding into your body, doesn't matter if it's caffeine, nicotine, and everything else that is out there, it will affect your sleep in a sense, right? Because it's just the way it is, So if you try to outsmart your system in some way with adding something to basically have better sleep, there's so many of these weird supplements out there that don't work. There are a couple that are cool. There's some adaptogenics that are nice, that can help. There's some good herbs that can help. There's some really nice teas that can help. I also mess with melatonin here and there for in a therapeutic sense. So don't just take it like this, and without any thought behind it, because then you can fuck things up. But like, if you know what you're doing, and if you know how to take it, because you have to take it in a special way and a special combination with some other things, then it's actually a really powerful way of regulating the nervous system and stuff like that, which in the long run is nice. That's what you want. That's when life gets really interesting, when your nervous system is not in fight or flight mode. And especially, I know there's a lot of you listening that have ADHD and ADD, and you got this stamp by some doctor at some point, and now you're stuck with it, and now it's your identity, right? So as soon as you are able to regulate your nervous system better, all these symptoms just completely more manageable, right? It's just interesting how everything shifts. Once that shifts, the external shifts immensely, right? All of a sudden, everything that you put your mind to becomes reality. Your visions that you've been having for a long time, they really become manifestations all of a sudden. All has to do with the nervous system, okay? That's why all this bullshit that you see on YouTube and stuff, they never notice, or they never tell you that, because I don't know if they know that or if they don't, but I really rarely hear any of these manifestation teachers talk about the nervous system. You can manifest all you want. If your nervous system's not properly regulated, it won't work. So, as you see, it's all connected. But I'm telling you, sleep is crucial. Removing all these toxins is crucial. Detoxification, if you've never done it, intermittent fasting, any form of detoxification, like, it's so needed. There's so much stuff out there that you've never thought about, that you consume on a daily basis, that you ingest on a daily basis, that you are exposed to on a daily basis, that affects all your systems in the body, and it accumulates over time, right? It compounds over time. So a little bit of fluoride here, a little bit of fluoride there, a little bit of this toothpaste, a little bit of that salt, a little bit stuff coming from the atmosphere, a bit of pesticides, herbicides on this and that, right? Like it all compounds. And then all of a sudden, you know, you have all these issues come up, all these diseases come up, and then the regular Western medicine doctor just give you something for the symptom. And then you have side effects from that. This is like, it's so funny, you know? So funny to me, this how this whole thing works. And a lot of people don't even think about it, they just trust that shit, because it's big pharma supposed to know what's going on. This doctor is supposed to know what's going on just because he had an education that's also state controlled. They work with insurance companies. In Germany, for example, insurance companies work directly with the government. You know, it's like a triangle. Like the medical system, insurance companies, and government bodies. And basically, you can only... Yeah, it's a topic for a different